The space station floated in the dark sky like a cold metal spider. It had no name, no signal, and no windows. Ships arrived quietly, their engines cold. They docked one by one, almost like they didn't want anyone to know they were there. Inside. The walls were gray and the lights dim. Soldiers marched in silence. Cameras blinked but did not speak. This was not a public place. It was hidden from the galaxy. Only the highest members of alien governments knew about it. Today, something important was happening. A large hall had been prepared. Rows of seats, shaped in a half circle, faced a long glowing stage. Soldiers from different alien species sat. Side by side, their uniforms were clean. Their weapons were close. There was no laughter. No talking. Just silence. At the front, an old alien named Valkar stood tall. He was from the Drazic Empire, a species with 4 arms and cold silver eyes. Valkar was famous. He had led over 50 battles and destroyed 3 planets. Today, he was not here to fight. He was here to teach. Valkar looked over the crowd. "Thank you for coming," he said in a voice deep and sharp. "Today's lesson is not for the weak. Today, we study how to kill humans." A quiet buzz moved through the room. Some aliens nodded. Others smirked. Valkar pressed a button. A hologram of a human soldier appeared above the stage. It rotated slowly. The humans looked simple: 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin, small teeth. "No claws, no poison. They are weak," Valkar said. "But they survive." He turned to the crowd. "They don't have scales, they don't have fangs. Yet they keep winning. Why? That is what we must understand." A new slide appeared. It showed human wars, explosions, tanks, ships, soldiers shouting and running into fire. "Humans don't fight to survive," Valkar said. "They fight to win, even when they know they will die." The aliens leaned forward. This was the first truth they had not thought about before. "But they have limits," he said. "They make mistakes. Their strength is also their weakness. They feel." The hologram changed. Now it showed a human crying beside a fallen friend. "Emotions," Valkar said. "They care about each other. They protect each other. If you break their hearts, you break their lines." He smiled darkly. In the back row, a figure sat still. He wore a gray cloak. His hood was up. His face was hidden. He looked like a translator or maybe a guard. Nobody noticed him, but under the hood was not an alien. It was a human. Mason Reed sat perfectly still. His heart beat steady. His eyes moved quickly. He recorded every word, every slide, every name. Was alone. He had entered the station using stolen codes. He had passed security by pretending to be a low-level worker from the Kryn race. He even used a breathing filter to fake their scent. This mission was not just dangerous. It was suicide. But Mason had a reason. A year ago, his younger brother Dean had been killed in a surprise alien raid. Mason had buried the body himself. Now he wanted answers. He wanted to know who was planning the next attack and when. This seminar was the key. Valkar walked slowly across the stage. "The humans trust. Use that. Smile to their faces and stab their backs. Offer peace, then strike." The crowd chuckled. He clicked again. A map of Earth appeared. "This is their weakness," Valkar said. "One planet, one home. Hit them there, and the rest will fall." Mason's jaw tightened under the hood. He wanted to stand up. He wanted to shout. But he didn't move. Not yet. He checked the recorder in his wristband. All was working. Suddenly, a voice beside him whispered, "What sector are you from?" Mason turned slightly. A blue-skinned alien with 3 eyes looked at him. Mason kept his voice low and rough. "South Kryn Unit, Logistics." The alien nodded and turned back. Mason let out a silent breath. 2. Close. The seminar continued. Valkar introduced a new speaker, Commander Threx of the Varan fleet. She was tall, with spikes along her back and glowing red eyes. She spoke about human training. They overthink. They wait too long. Their officers care too much. They won't sacrifice their soldiers unless forced. She showed a battle where humans could have won if they had used bombs. But they didn't. They tried to save civilians. That slowed them down. Use civilians as shields, she said. Make the humans choose. They always hesitate. The aliens laughed again. Mason's hands shook slightly. He remembered that battle. He was there. His unit had held the line while civilians escaped. Half of them died, including Dean. After 2 hours, the seminar paused for a short break. Drinks were served. The room dimmed. Mason stood slowly, pretending to stretch. He walked to a side hall, acting like he was looking for the washroom, but he turned left instead of right. He entered a dark room with control panels. No guards. He connected his recorder to the panel and began uploading data to a hidden drone outside the station. The drone would send the message to a human ship waiting beyond the dark side of a nearby moon. Mason typed quickly. Suddenly, red lights blinked. Unusual signal detected. Mason froze. He pulled the recorder free and slipped back into the hallway. As he walked, a voice echoed over the speakers. Security teams report to the main hall. We may have a breach. Mason's heart raced. Someone had found the recorder he left under his seat. He looked around. Guards were moving. Doors were locking. He was trapped. Back in the hall, Valkar frowned. Someone has been spying, he said. Check every ID, now. Mason moved fast. He turned left, then right, then dropped into a small maintenance shaft. It was barely wide enough for him to crawl. He turned off his badge and suit lights. Total darkness. He waited as footsteps echoed above him. His mind ran fast. The data was 80% uploaded. The signal might have gone through. But there was no way to know. He had to find a way out, and fast. Far above the station, the human drone blinked. It had received part of the message. The human ship nearby picked up the signal. Earth command. Read the first line. Aliens planning direct attack. Seminar confirms target, Earth. Full data incoming. Then the signal cut. They didn't know who sent it. But they knew one thing now. War was coming. And someone was out there, risking everything to warn them. Red lights flashed in every hallway of the space station. Doors slammed shut. Steel walls shifted into lockdown mode. Voices shouted over loudspeakers in multiple alien languages. Security alert. All personnel freeze. Guards marched down corridors, scanning every ID badge, searching every shadow dot in the middle of the chaos. Mason Reed moved like a ghost. He had memorized the station's blueprint 2 weeks ago. Every hallway, every vent, every backup route. He stayed low, his body tight to the wall, hood pulled low over his face. He ducked into a side chamber just before a patrol passed. 3 guards stopped just outside. One of them pointed to a scanner in his hand. "Trace ends here," he growled in a sharp alien voice. Mason's heart thumped. His eyes darted around the dark chamber. Nothing but storage crates. He had one choice. He slid inside a narrow crate, closed it softly, and stayed still. The guards entered. One scanned the room. Beep, tape, then silence. "False reading," one said. "Search the next corridor." The footsteps faded. Mason waited. 5 seconds. 10. 30. Only then did he open the crate and slip out. He had been trained for this. Black Ops, zero noise escape missions. But even with all his training, this was different. He wasn't on Earth. He wasn't among humans. This was enemy ground. If he was caught, they wouldn't imprison him. They would dissect him. Mason moved toward the east wing. There was a service tunnel that led to the docking bay. His ship was still there, locked, but reachable. He checked his wrist. Upload status. 82%. The drone was still receiving the data. But it was too slow. He needed to finish the upload or warn Earth another way. Suddenly, a voice came through the speaker system. The intruder is disguised, possibly wearing a Kryn technician suit. Be alert. If human, bring alive for questioning. Mason's breath stopped. They knew. His cover was blown. He touched the side of his wristband and activated the emergency wipe. All false ID data would be erased in case he was captured, but that meant no more fake badge. From now on, he would have to move without any official access. Somewhere deeper in the station, Valkar stood in a control room with two generals. "Find him," he said coldly. "We cannot let this data leave this station." Commander Threx crossed her arms. What if the data already escaped? Valkar looked at the stars through a narrow viewing slit. "Then we make sure the messenger never speaks again." He turned to a tall, pale alien with black gloves. "Activate the internal sensor sweep. Detect all unusual heat signatures, and triple the guards near the human's ship." "Yes, War Master," the alien said. Mason dropped into a tunnel hatch and crawled for 15 meters. The tunnel stank of grease and oil, but it gave him cover. As he moved, his mind went back to training on Mars Base 9. His commanding officer's words came back to him. "If the enemy teaches you how to kill your people, use that knowledge. But never let them know you were listening." He thought about that now as he crawled toward danger. At the end of the tunnel, he reached a maintenance room. From here, he could access the comms relay. He needed to send one last burst of data. Just as he pulled off the panel, a soft click echoed behind him. He turned. A security bot hovered near the ceiling. Its red sensor eye locked onto him. "Unauthorized user detected," it said in a robotic voice. Mason didn't hesitate. He grabbed a metal wrench and hurled it. Clang! The bot fell, sparks flying. Mason dove forward and ripped the chip from its body. He tossed it aside and opened the panel fast. His fingers flew over the console. He connected his wristband. The last of the seminar audio and visual recordings uploaded. 95%. 96%. Suddenly, the door behind him slammed open. A squad of guards stormed in. Mason grabbed a small explosive from his belt and threw it at the floor. Smoke filled the room. He dashed through a side hatch, coughed once, and ran down the back hallway. 97%. 98%. He activated the drone signal one last time. 99%. 100%. Data complete. Mason allowed himself one breath of relief. But then, the hallway ahead closed with a heavy slam steel barrier. No way through. He turned. Guards approached from both ends. Mason looked up and spotted a small vent opening just above him, too high to reach by hand. He backed up and ran forward. One jump. Fingers gripped the edge. He pulled himself up and crawled in just as blaster fire scorched the wall behind him. The vent was hot and narrow. But Mason didn't care. He was smiling now. Earth had the data. They would know. They would be ready. But Mason still needed to get out. Down below, Valkar stared at a screen. "The upload completed," one officer said. Valkar's silver eyes narrowed. "Then Earth knows," Commander Threx growled. "Do we abort the invasion?" "No," Valkar said. "We accelerate it." He turned to the room. "Send the fleet, now. If we move before Earth can react, we can still crush them." The room became a blur of motion. In the vents, Mason heard the engine hum shift. He knew that sound. It was a fleet preparing to launch. He whispered to himself, "They're not waiting anymore." He found a small hatch leading to the engineering bay. Inside, a group of aliens worked on power cores. Mason spotted a storage locker. He waited. One engineer left. Another turned away. He slipped out of the vent, into the locker, and found a fresh guard uniform. He put it on. Then he found a new ID chip freshly programmed. It wasn't perfect, but it might get him to the docking ring. 20 minutes later, Mason approached the docking checkpoint. A tall lizard-like guard scanned his. The chip buzzed once, then went green. Move along, the guard said. Mason nodded and walked forward. He passed through the security gate. One more hallway. His ship waited just beyond it. Cliffhanger ending. Just as Mason approached the last corner, a voice shouted behind him, "Stop him! That's the human!" He turned. 6 armed guards raised blasters. Mason dove forward into the docking bay as shots burned the walls behind him. Blaster fire lit up the metal walls behind Mason. He rolled across the floor, sparks flying over his back as the guards fired again. He reached the ship's ramp and slammed his hand on the emergency override. BZZD. The ramp opened halfway. 2. Slow. A guard shouted. Block the bay doors. Don't let him lift off. Mason dove into the ship, slammed the inside controls, and activated emergency launch sequence. Engines roared. The ramp closed behind him just as the guards reached it. One tried to pry it open with a plasma cutter, but it was too late. The ship shook. Mason grabbed the pilot's seat, hit full thrust, and launched from the dock. Outside the station, the blackness of space waited. Cold, empty, silent. But Mason wasn't alone. 4 interceptor ships detached from the space station and shot after him like angry wasps. The control panel blinked red. Incoming lock-on, missile class, heat seeker. He muttered, "Of course." The ship shook again. Missiles were closing in. Mason threw the ship into a wild spin. Diving toward a nearby asteroid field, he dropped flares, looped between 2 massive rocks, and tried to lose his tail. The first missile exploded behind him, rocking the ship hard. The second clipped the left wing. Smoke burst from the side. Lights flickered, but the ship held. Inside the station, Valkar stared at the fleeing ship. "Is he transmitting again?" "No, War Master," the officer said. "The signal is silent." "Then shoot him down," Valkar said. Commander. Threx frowned. "What if the data was fully sent already?" Valkar's eyes narrowed. "Then we must prepare for Earth's defense. But first, finish the traitor." Mason's ship twisted through the debris. He found a narrow ice tunnel in one of the larger asteroids and flew straight through it, barely squeezing in. The enemy ship slowed. The tunnel was too tight for all of them. Mason smiled. "Let's see how brave you really are." He pressed a button, rear charge armed. As soon as he cleared the tunnel, he dropped a charge behind him. The blast collapsed the tunnel just as 2 interceptors tried to follow. Boom. Rock shattered. One enemy ship was crushed. The others pulled back. Mason finally reached open space again, but he was still in danger. The control screen flashed again. Hull damage, 41%, oxygen leak. Compartment 2 power core. Stable, he sighed. Could be worse. He angled the ship toward a nearby moon, hidden behind the gas giant. There. His drone had been programmed to wait in low orbit. If it was still there, it held the full copy of the seminar's recording. If he could reach it, he could pick it up and take it straight to Earth. But the question burned in his mind. Had the drone already been found? 15 minutes passed as he drifted behind the moon. His ship shuddered. Warning lights blinked again. It wouldn't last much longer. He tapped. "The comlink. Drone is 17, respond." Nothing. He tried again. "This is Operative Mason Reed. Authenticate code Echo 60. This time, a soft beep answered. Then, authentication accepted. "Drone active. Status, safe orbit. Ready for data transfer." Mason smiled. "Let's go." He pulled alongside the drone and connected to its external latch. The screen lit up. Download complete. Mission data transferred to onboard system. All the video footage, audio files, battle plans, and alien war strategies were now in his ship's computer. All he had to do was get back to Earth. But just then, the ship's alarm rang again. "Warning. Multiple heat signatures detected. New enemy ships approaching." Mason checked the radar. 3 warships. Bigger than before, and they were coming fast. Meanwhile, back on the station, the alien leaders were no longer calm. Valkar slammed his fist on the control table. He escaped again? What do we have security for? Commander Threx looked down at a screen. Our scans show he picked up something near the moon, possibly a hidden drone. Valkar stared at the screen in silence. Then he turned to a younger officer. Bring in the shadow operatives. The officer looked shocked. The assassins? Yes, Valkar said. If we can't stop him with ships, we send something worse. Back in space, Mason saw the warships closing in. He couldn't fight them. His ship was damaged. Weapons were weak. So he ran. He turned hard, pointing the ship toward a hidden wormhole path only known to Black Ops teams. It wasn't stable, but it was fast. He set the ship to max speed. The wormhole began to open, but just before he entered, he saw something on the radar, a small signal. A ship. No. Too small to be a ship. It was a stealth pod. And it was already inside. His ship. Mason froze. He wasn't alone anymore. He stood from the pilot's seat and drew his weapon. He moved toward the back of the ship, toward the dark cargo bay. The lights flickered. Footsteps echoed. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was aboard. Someone had entered during the battle. Maybe during the asteroid run, and they were moving now. He reached the door to the cargo hold. It slid open with a hiss. Darkness. Then a shape leaped at him from above. Mason rolled back. A blade sliced the air where his neck had been. He fired once. Missed. The figure vanished into the shadows. It was fast. Silent. Trained. Another assassin. Mason dropped his weapon. He pulled out a small EMP grenade. He counted. 3, 2. Then he threw it. Popped. The room flashed white. Blue. Sparks flew. Assassin dropped from the ceiling, twitching. His suit disabled for a few seconds. That was all Mason needed. He tackled the attacker and pulled off the helmet. Inside was a gray-skinned alien with black eyes and no mouth. A species bred for killing. The creature hissed silently and tried to move, but its suit was frozen. Mason didn't speak. He crushed the creature's wrist beacon and tossed it into the waste chute. He returned to the pilot's seat. Wormhole gate. Ahead. Ships behind him. A dead assassin in the back. And Earth waiting. He gripped the controls. Hang on. He muttered to the ship. Cliffhanger ending. The ship vanished into the wormhole as plasma beams passed inches from the hull, but the ship wasn't fully stable. Inside, sparks flew. The engine warning screamed. If the wormhole collapsed before he reached the exit, he'd be lost forever. The wormhole twisted like a storm. Inside the tunnel of light, Mason's ship shook so hard it felt like the hull would crack open. Sparks flew from the control panel. The navigation system blinked, then went black. Hold together, Mason said. Through gritted teeth, he tightened the straps on his seat and kept one hand on the emergency stabilizer. Behind him, the body of the assassin lay still in the dark cargo hold. The EMP had disabled the suit, but not for long. He had to move fast. Ship jerked violently. A metal panel flew off the wall. Warning, wormhole core unstable. Exit vector shifting. Mason didn't like what that meant. The wormhole wasn't just unstable, it was throwing him off course. Back on the alien space station, the situation was changing. Commander Threx leaned over the holographic war table. The human escaped into a wormhole. But not toward Earth. Valkar raised an eyebrow. Where then? She tapped the map. A nearby system. Small, abandoned mining colony. No life readings, no signals. Valkar stared at it. If the ship exits there, he'll be isolated. He turned to the Shadow Team commander. Send a hunting unit. Make it look like an accident. I want the body burned. No evidence. No trace. The officer nodded. Mason's single quotes S-ship burst out of the wormhole barely, Smoke trailed from both engines. Hull had deep burn marks. The ship tumbled, spinning out of control. Mason slammed his hand on the stabilizer. The spin slowed, then stopped. He drifted above a rocky gray planet with no atmosphere. System scan. Name URS-17 status. Abandoned structures. One mining base detected. Had no fuel to return to Earth. No way to contact command. And worst of all, the assassin in. The back was gone. Mason turned slowly, weapon in hand. The cargo bay was empty now. The body had moved. He scanned the shadows. No movement. No sound. But he wasn't alone. He opened a weapons locker and pulled out an old magnetic rifle. It wasn't strong, but it could pierce armor at close range. He moved carefully through the narrow hallway. A sudden hiss behind him. He spun and fired. Nothing there. His breath grew heavy. His hand clenched tighter on the grip. Then, a voice came. From the speaker system. You shouldn't have come here, human. Mason's eyes widened. The assassin had accessed the ship's intercom. He was in the system. You think you're clever. The voice continued, soft, cold, in perfect translation. But you brought the data with you. Now we just have to kill you and take it back. Mason didn't reply. He had one goal now: land on the mining base below, hide the data, and prepare for the worst. If he died, fine, but the aliens wouldn't. Get the recordings. He set the ship on auto descent toward the surface. The gray planet loomed closer. No lights, no signs of life. Only dust and old steel towers sticking up from the rocks. The mining base was broken, rusted. Some walls had collapsed. Power was gone, but it had a sealed room underground. He saw that in the scan. Perfect for hiding. What mattered most? He landed hard. The ship skidded and slammed into a rock, but it held. Alarms beeped softly. Fuel, empty. Engine, offline. Oxygen supply, 7 hours. He grabbed the data drive, packed it in a metal vault, and strapped it to his back. Then he turned to the hallway again. Still no sign of the assassin. But something told him it was watching. He opened the side hatch and stepped out into the dust storm. His helmet sealed with a soft hiss. Gray wind blew over him. Bits of metal and ash swirled in the air. He ran for the entrance of the mining base. The doors were stuck, rusted shut. He fired one shot at the locking mechanism. The doors groaned open. Darkness inside. He entered slowly. Inside the mining base. Broken walls and tools lay scattered. Thick cables hung from the ceiling like vines. The silence was heavy. Mason used his wrist light to guide him to the sublevel. Metal stairs creaked under his boots. Every step echoed like thunder. When he reached the underground storage room, he found what he was looking for: a reinforced data vault, once used for storing mining AI chips. He opened it, placed the drive inside, and closed it. He locked it with a special human-coded encryption, a type no alien had cracked yet. He stepped back. Mission complete. Then he heard a voice again. Close, too close. I watched you hide it. He spun around too late. The assassin tackled him from the shadows. They crashed into the wall. Mason hit hard. He grabbed the rifle and fired. Missed again. The assassin moved like a shadow, fast, silent. Deadly. Mason dropped the rifle and pulled his knife. They struggled in the dark. Rolling on the floor. The assassin's blade nicked. His side. Blood filled his suit. Mason growled and slammed his elbow into the alien's neck. The assassin fell back, but only for a second. It smiled now. Then it pulled a small round device from its belt, a plasma bomb. Mason's eyes widened. If the assassin blew this place up, the drive would be destroyed. He lunged. They fought again, this time near the vault. Mason punched, kicked, dodged. The assassin slashed his arm. He grabbed a metal rod and smashed it into the alien's helmet. Crack. The visor shattered. The assassin hissed in pain. Mason reached for the bomb and pulled the pin. Then he threw it straight into the empty airlock chamber. He slammed the door shut and hit the eject button. Boom. The chamber exploded. Dust rained from the ceiling. The shockwave knocked both of them down. Silence followed. Mason crawled toward the vault. The assassin lay still this time. Real still, helmet cracked. No movement. Mason sat down beside the vault, bleeding, breathing heavy. He checked his wrist. Oxygen. 4 hours power, 9% ship, unreachable. Signal, dead escape. None but the drive was safe. The data would stay here, even if he didn't. And maybe, just maybe, Earth would send someone to find it. Cliffhanger ending. As Mason leaned back against the wall, eyes closing, a small red light blinked inside the assassin's armor. A tracker, not just a kill mission. A beacon. They now knew exactly where the data was, and more were coming. Mason sat in the dark, his back against the cold metal wall of the old mining vault. His side hurt. Blood dripped from the cut beneath his ribs. His vision blurred. He looked over at the assassin's body lying across the floor. Its helmet was cracked, and its limbs were still dead. Finally, Mason let out a long breath. But he knew it wasn't over. His oxygen meter blinked on his wrist. 3 hours left. Power on his suit. 8%. No COMM. No ship. And no backup. But the mission, the real mission, was complete. The data about the alien seminar was locked in the old vault. Behind him, hidden, safe. Or so he thought. Then he saw it. A faint, red glow blinking inside the assassin's armor. Small, pulsing. Mason crawled over, reached into the shattered chest plate, and pulled out the device. A tracker. His stomach dropped. Weren't just here to kill him. They were here to find the data's location. And now, the signal had gone out. More were coming. Maybe many more. He crushed the tracker under his boot, but it was too late. The signal was already sent. Far above, in orbit above the planet, a sleek alien stealth ship uncloaked. Its hull was black and smooth, shaped like a knife. Inside were 5 more assassins, silent, trained, genetically enhanced to kill. Their leader received the signal and stared at the map. He's alive. The vault is confirmed. They nodded. Their orders were clear. Retrieve the human. Destroy the base. Burn everything. They began their descent. Back inside the base, Mason stood slowly, ignoring the pain. He looked around. The base was full of old equipment, rusted crates, dead power lines, but he wasn't looking for shelter anymore. He was preparing for a final stand. He limped down a side hallway, found an old tool room, and kicked open the rusted door. Inside, metal rods, broken mining, lasers, explosives, power cells, primitive but usable. He began to work. He set traps. He built blockades. He rigged the airlock entrance with a motion-triggered charge, and all the while, he repeated a quiet sentence in his mind. 1 kill, then another. Keep going. Don't stop. 1 hour passed. He dragged the assassin's body into the corner, stripped what parts were useful, and rigged the suit to explode if moved. He checked his oxygen again. 1 hour. 44 minutes. He knew what that meant. If help didn't come, he wouldn't survive the day. But that was okay. As long as the vault stayed untouched. The mission lived. Even if he DIDN single quotes D. Suddenly, his suit's radar pinned 5 incoming signatures. Landing fast. He smiled bitterly. They're early. Outside the old base, 5 dark figures dropped from the sky. No words. No hesitation. Each assassin moved like a shadow. They split up. 2 approached the main entrance. 2 moved toward the collapsed side wall. 1 climbed to the roof. Inside, Mason watched on a cracked screen. He whispered, "Let's dance." The 2 at the front reached the main airlock. As soon as the door opened, boom, flames burst outward. Metal shrapnel tore through the air. 1 assassin fell, armor torn open. The other flew backward into a steel beam. Stunned. Mason didn't wait. He sprinted from his hiding spot. aimed the old mining rifle, and fired one's headshot. The stunned assassin dropped. First kill. Clean. Mason ducked behind a pillar. The others now knew his position. They moved faster now. One dropped into the hallway and fired a pulse. Blade barely missing Mason's shoulder. Mason rolled, dropped his rifle, and pulled a pipe bomb from his belt. He lit the fuse and tossed it down the corridor. Boom! Dust and fire filled the tunnel. One more assassin gone. 3 left. Mason was bleeding more now. His ribs hurt. His left hand was burned, but he was alive, and they were dying. He found another hiding spot, a storage room near the vault. He pressed himself against the wall, waiting. Silent. Then clang. Footsteps. A shadow. One assassin entered. Tall. Heavy armor. A blade in each hand. Mason waited. The alien turned its head and Mason pounced. He grabbed the creature's arm, yanked it sideways, and drove a metal spike into the weak joint of the shoulder. The blade fell. Mason took it, flipped it, and stabbed hard through the neck seal. The assassin gurgled, then dropped. 2 left. One of them threw a grenade down the hallway. Mason ducked. Boom. The wall behind him exploded. He was thrown forward, his ears ringing, his vision blurred again. He tried to stand and fell. His leg was hit. Shrapnel. The final assassin walked slowly toward him. No words. No emotion. It raised its weapon. Mason reached for a backup pistol on his chest, but the alien fired first. BZZT. The shot hit Mason's chest armor, throwing him into the wall. The armor cracked. The display blinked. Oxygen, 22 minutes. Heart rate, critical. Mason slumped down, coughing blood, but he still smiled. The alien stepped forward to finish the job. Mason whispered, "You forgot something." The assassin tilted its head. Mason clicked a button on his wrist. Behind the alien, a cargo door exploded. A steel crate smashed into its back, pinning it to the floor. Mason stood, limping, and pointed the pistol. One left. He said. Bang. Silence. Smoke drifted through the hallway. Mason fell back against the wall. He could barely breathe. His arm was broken. His visor was cracked. But all 5 assassins were dead. He crawled back to the vault. He checked it again. Still sealed. Still safe. He sat beside it. His oxygen meter blinked red. 15 minutes left. Then a sound. A ship, but not alien. Human. Mason S weak smile returned. He whispered, "Took you long enough." Cliffhanger ending. The hatch opened. 3 human soldiers rushed inside in full combat armor. Mason read? He nodded once, eyes closing. "We're taking you home." Earth got the message. They lifted him up, but as they turned to leave, one soldier looked back at the destroyed hallway. 5 assassins. "One man," he whispered. "What kind of human is this?" The squad leader replied, "The kind they shouldn't have tried to teach how to die." The Earth Defense War Room was buried deep beneath the surface of the Rocky Mountains. No windows, no daylight, just steel, concrete, and glowing screens. Generals, admirals, and analysts sat around a long table as holograms floated above it. Maps, fleet positions, red alerts blinking from dozens of planets. In the center of it all stood General Herrick, head of Earth's Strategic Command. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharp. He stared at the glowing display, showing a spinning data drive. "The seminar recordings," he said quietly. His top intelligence officer nodded. "Just received. Uploaded from a drone relay. It's real, sir, all of it." They tapped a control. The room filled with sound. Humans care about each other. They feel that's their flaw. Break their hearts, break their lines. Hit Earth and the rest will fall. The generals listened in silence. Then the voice of the alien, War Master Valkar, played clearly. "They think they are strong, but we are ready to teach them what true war means." The recording ended. Silence again. Then Herrick spoke. "So they're coming." On the screen, a map of the galaxy blinked. Dozens of alien fleets were moving. not just one species. Not one empire. 7 major powers, united, against Earth. The largest fleet commanded by Val Carr himself was already leaving Drazik space. They would reach Earth in less than 2 weeks. We knew they hated us, one admiral said. But we didn't know they'd do this. Another general slammed his hand on the table. We wouldn't have known at all if not for the agent who got us that data. At that moment, in a secure medbay nearby, Mason Reed lay in a recovery pod. His wounds were sealed, his ribs bandaged. His right arm still in a brace, but he was alive. Barely. A young officer stepped in and saluted. "Sir, they're asking for you in the war room." Mason sat up slowly. "I'm not a general," the officer smiled. "No, but you're the only man who's seen their war plans up close." Minutes later, Mason stood before the high command. The room went silent as he entered. Herrick nodded. "Operative Reed, take a seat." Mason didn't sit. He stood, one hand gripping the table for balance. "You've all heard the recordings," he said. "But what you don't know is that they're not just planning a strike, they're planning a massacre. They don't want to win. They want to erase us." He pointed at the star map. "They're not just targeting Earth. They want Mars, Luna Base, the Terran Belt, all of it. They want to end the human race in one strike." A general leaned forward. "How much time do we have?" Mason's voice was firm. "Less than 2 weeks." Herrick turned to his staff. "Evacuate all civilians from outer colonies. Begin orbital shield prep around Earth. Scramble every fleet now." As orders flew across the room, Mason stepped aside and took a deep breath. His mission had worked. Earth was no longer blind, but the war was now official. In another part of the galaxy, the Alien War Council gathered inside a colossal dreadnought ship. Valkar stood before them, silver eyes glowing. He pointed at a hologram of Earth. "This world has insulted our empires long enough. They fought when they should have bowed. They won when they should have died." He turned to the others. "Now, we end the human age." The others nodded. Commander Threx asked, "What of the spy? The human that escaped with the seminar data?" Valkar's lips curled. "He'll wish he had died in that base." Back on Earth, Mason sat alone in a dark room. A screen showed his brother's name, Dean Reed, KIA. Colony 7. Mason closed his eyes. He whispered, "I'm not done." Then he opened a private channel. "Patch me through to Black Unit 9. The soldier on the other side answered. "Mason, thought you were dead." "I was." He paused. "But I need one more drop, one more mission. Behind their lines." Cliffhanger ending. As Earth prepared for the largest invasion in human history, Mason Reed suited up again, wounded, tired, but alive. He looked at the stars and whispered, "Let's teach them what real war feels like." Darkness filled the skies above Earth, but it wasn't natural night. Massive alien warships blocked the stars. The galaxy's deadliest fleets had arrived. On the surface, cities trembled, sirens screamed, people ran, hid, prayed. But Earth's defenders stood ready. Mason Reed stood on the command bridge of the USS Vigilant. His wounds had barely healed. His eyes burned with fierce determination. Beside him, General Herrick pointed at a massive holographic map. "Enemy ships are breaking through the outer defense ring. We expect full attack within the hour." Mason clenched his fists. "Then we give them a fight they'll never forget." Outside, the first wave of alien fighters dove toward Earth's orbit. Missiles flashed, lasers burned. Explosions lit up the darkness. Like fireworks, Mason took the pilot's seat. His ship was battered but fast. He launched into the chaos. The enemy came in waves. Their ships were deadly. Well, coordinated. But Mason and his squad cut through them, one by one. He remembered the seminar recordings. The aliens underestimated humans. They thought humans would surrender. They were wrong. Mason's squadron broke through a blockade. He saw The flagship, the massive ship commanded by Valkar. Target the War Master's ship. Herrick ordered. Mason locked his weapons. The battle was fierce. Enemy fire hammered. Mason's ship. Systems failed. Shields flickered. But Mason didn't stop. He flew close to the enemy flagship. Dodging beams and missiles. His squad followed. Suddenly, Mason fired a powerful missile. It struck the War Master's ship near the bridge. Inside, alarms screamed. Valkar shouted orders, but his ship shook. Mason smiled grimly. First hit. The battle raged for hours. Earth's fleets held their ground. But Mason knew the fight was far from over. Cliffhanger. Ending. As the flagship started to retreat, Mason's ship was hit. He lost control. The last thing he saw was Valkar's face on his screen. A cold, cruel smile. Mason Reed's ship spun wildly through space. Systems failing. Smoke filling the cockpit. He fought the controls with every ounce of strength left. The enemy flagship was retreating. But the war was far from over. Suddenly, a voice came through his com. Reed. This is General Herrick. Hang on, we're sending a rescue team. Mason smiled weakly. Thanks, I'm still flying. The rescue team arrived just in time. They pulled Mason's ship out of the spinning dive and into safety. Back on the command ship, Mason was patched into the war room. The galaxy had never seen a fight like this. 7 alien empires, united against Earth. But Mason knew something they didn't. Humans were not easy to break. They fought with heart, with chaos, with hope. Herrick looked at Mason. The data you brought saved us. We're ready now. Mason nodded. Then let's finish this. The final battle was fierce. Explosions rocked space. Ships burned. Mason led the charge. In the heart of the enemy fleet, Mason's ship broke through to Valkar. Flagship once more. The War Master waited. The two faced off in a deadly duel. Blasters fired. Ships shook. Mason's skill and human stubbornness met Valkar's cold precision. In the end, Mason's courage won. Valkar's ship was destroyed. The alien fleet scattered. Back on Earth, people cheered. The invasion was stopped. But Mason knew this war was only the beginning. Cliffhanger ending. As Mason looked at the stars, a new message came through. Unknown fleet approaching. Unknown technology detected. His eyes narrowed. The galaxy was bigger, more dangerous. And the story was far from over.